Amelia Benson, at 26, had almost everything people pray for. She was the only daughter of Mr. James Benson, who owned a wide empire of companies, and Mrs. Sarah Benson, a well-known journalist and TV presenter. She grew up in big houses with shining floors, quiet corridors, and cars that looked new every day. Clothes, trips, parties, anything she wanted was always there. But inside her, there was a quiet space that all the noise could not fill. People smiled at Amelia, but their eyes often went past her to the Benson name. Friends loved the life, not the person. Men tried to impress her with what they owned, not who they were. They talked about business and power, not about kindness or truth. Amelia wanted a different kind of life, at least for a while. She wanted to breathe simple air, meet people who did not know her last name, and find love that was real. One evening, after another shallow introduction to a rich man who spent more time talking about himself than asking about her, Amelia made up her mind. She walked through the quiet halls of the mansion and felt the weight of her choice, and the lightness too. She would leave for a short time. She would step out of the bubble and test her heart in a simpler world. They sat down for dinner in the grand dining room. The chandeliers glowed. The long table was set with fine plates and silver. Staff moved softly in the background. Mr. James Benson read a report on his tablet. Mrs. Sarah Benson, graceful in a blue blouse, sipped water and watched her daughter with curious eyes. "I've been thinking," Amelia said. Her voice was steady, but her hands felt warm. "I want to leave the city for a while. I need time to find myself, away from all of this." Sarah set down her glass. "Leave?" she asked, gentle but firm. "Amelia, the world outside is harsh. You are a young woman. You have never had to struggle. Why would you step into difficulty on purpose? You don't need to. You are safe here." "That is the problem, Mom," Amelia said softly. "Here I am always the Benson daughter. People treat me like a door to a better life. They don't see me. I want to live simply for a time. I want to meet people who don't know my family. I want to find love that is real." Sarah shook her head. "It is dangerous. People can be cruel. How will you manage without the comfort and protection you have always had?" Amelia turned to her father. "Dad." Mr. James had been quiet, eyes on his daughter, listening. He put the tablet down. "Where will you go?" "I don't know yet," Amelia said honestly. "But not far, somewhere simple. I will keep a low profile. I will be careful." Sarah's eyes softened with worry. "What will you do for money? For work? For safety?" "I'll take a small amount of cash. I will change my phone number. I won't use our name. I will rent a small place or share a room. I will find short jobs. I just need to know if I can live a normal life and meet people who see me for me." Mr. James folded his hands. "For how long?" "A few weeks. Maybe a few months. Not forever." Silence rested over the table. The chandelier light touched Amelia's face. She felt the moment stretch. "If I cannot find what I am looking for," she continued, "if I don't find love on my own terms, I will come back. I will marry the man you want me to marry. I will do it with an open mind." Mr. James raised a brow. "You mean Donald?" Amelia nodded. "Yes. I need to know I tried." Sarah pressed her lips together. "James, tell her this is a bad idea," she said, almost pleading. "She is our daughter. We know this world. She does not. One mistake." Mr. James looked from his wife to his daughter. In his eyes there was both love and calculation, the mind of a leader, the heart of a father. He had seen Amelia's quiet sadness and the way she pulled away from parties that once excited her. He understood ambition, but he also understood regret. Finally, he nodded. "If this is what you need, I will support you." He faced Sarah. "She is strong. We must trust her." Sarah's eyes filled, not with tears, but with a mother's fear. "I don't want to lose you to the world," she whispered. "You won't," Amelia said, rising to take her mother's hand. "I will call. I will be careful. I promise." That night, Amelia packed a simple bag, 2 pairs of jeans, a few t-shirts, 1 plain dress, a sweater, flat shoes, a small towel, a comb, basic makeup, and a tiny first aid pouch. She counted out a small amount of cash, enough to live simply, not enough to draw attention. She put her old phone in a drawer and set up a new phone number on a basic phone with no fancy apps. She stood before her mirror and looked at herself without the Benson glow. No designer dress, no jewelry except a small cross she'd worn since childhood. She practiced a new smile, one that said, "I'm ordinary." She tried a new name on her tongue. "Sophie," she whispered. "My name is Sophie." The next morning she wore a plain top and jeans. No driver, no convoy, no assistant. The gate man, shocked, ran to open the gate anyway. The air outside smelled different. Less perfume, more dust and sun. She lifted her small bag and turned back. Mr. James stood on the steps with Sarah. He looked proud and worried at once. "Call me every Sunday," he said. "I will," Amelia replied. Sarah stepped forward and hugged her tightly. "Eat well. Don't walk alone at night. If anything feels wrong, come home. Promise me." "I promise." Mr. James offered a small envelope, emergency cash. Amelia slipped them into her bag. "Thank you." She took a breath that felt like a first step. The guards watched. The sun touched her face. For a second, she felt the pull of the safe life behind her, the soft sheets, the quiet mornings, the sure plans. Then she remembered the empty space inside her and faced the open road. "Goodbye," she said. "See you soon," her father corrected gently. Amelia smiled. "See you soon." She walked out, not as Amelia Benson, the heiress, but as Sophie, a young woman with a small bag and a brave heart, ready to learn who she was when no one knew her name. The sun felt hotter on the open road than it ever did inside the Benson cars. Sophie held her small bag close and walked toward the bus park, keeping her head down. The city was loud, hawkers calling, horns blaring, people moving fast and close. She boarded a small bus to the Central Market. When she got down, the crowd pressed around her from every side. Women balancing baskets, boys running errands, traders shouting prices. Sophie breathed in the mix of dust, pepper, and frying oil. It all felt strange, but also real. She kept one hand on her bag while she looked for a place to buy a phone card, or maybe find a small room for the night. She paused for a moment to check the road, and the weight on her shoulder suddenly changed. Sophie turned sharply. The zip was open. Her cash envelope was gone. Her heart began to race. She looked left and right, faces everywhere. No one looked guilty. No one even noticed her panic. The envelope was simply gone. She swallowed hard. "It's okay," she whispered to herself. "I still have some in my pocket." She reached into her jeans and felt nothing but the thin plastic of her new SIM card. Her legs trembled. She needed a place to sit down, to think. Just then a cab slowed beside her, and the driver leaned out. "Where are you going, madam? Come in. I'll take you." Sophie nodded without thinking. "Please, just somewhere quiet. Maybe a cheap guest house." The ride was short. When the car stopped near a small street filled with old lodges and food stalls, the driver cleared his throat. "That will be 10,000 naira." Sophie blinked. 10,000? That's too much. "Madam, the traffic was long. I took a longer route to get you here safely. Please, pay my money." She touched her pocket again, then remembered her money was gone. I don't have the money," she said softly. The driver frowned. "Don't try that with me. Pay my money now." "I'm not trying to cheat you," Sophie said quickly. "My bag was opened in the market and the money was stolen. Please, if you give me your number, I'll send it to you later." "Number? You think I'm a fool? Pay me now." His voice grew louder. "I said pay me my money." People nearby began to stare. Sophie's face turned red with shame. "Please, I'm not lying," she said, her voice shaking. "Is there a problem here?" The voice was calm and steady. Sophie turned and saw a man step out from under a shop shade. He was in his late 20s, tall, neatly dressed in a simple t-shirt and jeans. He looked confident, kind, and strong without trying to be. The driver pointed at Sophie. "She doesn't want to pay me my money. 10,000. She is claiming her money was stolen, can you imagine?" The man looked at Sophie, straight at her, not through her. "Is that true?" Sophie nodded, embarrassed. "Yes. My bag was opened in the crowd. The money is gone. I told him I'll send it later, but he doesn't believe me. The man nodded once, calm and firm. He took out his wallet, counted the money, and handed it to the driver. Here. She's not cheating you. You have your payment. The driver collected the money, still muttering, then got into his car and drove off. Sophie stood frozen, holding her empty bag tightly. Thank you, she said softly. I don't know how to repay you. You don't have to, the man said. His voice was gentle but serious. Just be more careful next time. The market can be dangerous. I will, she promised. I'll never forget this. Thank you so much. He nodded once. I'm Daniel, he said. I'm Sophie, she replied, still nervous but grateful. Do you know any place I can stay for a few days? Somewhere not expensive? Daniel pointed down the road. There's a lodge called Mama Peace Inn, second gate on the left. They'll give you a fair price. Sophie smiled faintly. Thank you, Daniel, for everything. He shrugged. Just be careful. Keep your bag in front of you and don't trust anyone too quickly. I'll remember. Daniel gave her one last nod and turned back toward the market. He blended into the crowd easily, walking with quiet confidence. Sophie stood there quietly, watching as Daniel disappeared into the sea of people, his steady steps soon swallowed by the market noise. A strange stillness filled her chest. She had just met the kindest stranger in her life, and now he was gone. She turned slowly toward the direction he had pointed, Mama Peace Inn, and started walking. The gate was old, the sign scratched and faded, but it looked safe enough. She knocked gently and a woman came out, wiping her hands on a wrapper. Yes? You need a room? Yes, Sophie replied. The woman looked her over and nodded. I can give you one of the small rooms for 3,000 a night. No light, but clean bed. Sophie's throat tightened. 3,000, she repeated. Her mind raced. She didn't have anything, not even a coin. Her entire envelope had been taken. She had no ATM card, no mobile transfer option, not even a working smartphone. Can I pay later? She asked, voice quiet. The woman shook her head. I'm sorry. We don't do that here. If you don't have money, I can't help you. Sophie nodded slowly. Thank you, she whispered, and walked away. She sat on a low concrete step nearby, hugging her bag. It was getting late. People were closing their stalls. The sun had started to dip behind the rooftops. She looked around. Everything looked unfamiliar and dangerous. The streetlights flickered weakly. She had no money, no friends, no home. She felt very small. For a second, she considered it. Should I just go home, she thought. Just call Daddy, tell him I made a mistake, go back to comfort and safety. But something inside her refused. Tears pushed at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them away. She stood and started pacing, her shoes quiet on the dusty pavement. That was when she heard a scream. No, please give it back, a girl shouted from around the corner. It's my brother's change. Sophie rushed toward the sound. Just ahead, two teenage boys were running off, laughing, as a younger girl chased after them hopelessly. She had a small black nylon bag clutched to her chest, but her face was red with frustration. Are you okay? Sophie asked, running up to her. They took the change I was supposed to return, the girl cried. I just bought pepper and matches and my brother sent me to get the rest back. Now it's gone. Sophie looked around. The boys were long gone. She sighed and touched the girl's shoulder gently. I'm so sorry, she said. Are you hurt? The girl sniffed and shook her head. No, just angry. Sophie gave a tired smile. I know how that feels. The world can be very unfair sometimes. You're not from here, are you? The girl asked, wiping her eyes. Sophie shook her head. No, I'm just trying to figure things out. Where do you stay? Sophie hesitated. Nowhere, really. I was hoping to find a cheap place, but my money was stolen. The girl's eyes widened. So you don't have anywhere to sleep? Sophie smiled, embarrassed. Not tonight. The girl looked at her carefully, then made a decision. Come with me. What? Come with me. You helped me. And you look like someone who really needs help too. Sophie blinked. I can't. My name is Diana, the girl said proudly. I live with my older brother. It's not a fancy place, but it's better than the street. You can sleep on our couch tonight, just for one night. Sophie hesitated, then nodded slowly. Okay. Thank you, Diana. The walk was short. They turned off the main road, through a narrow lane between houses built close together. The compound was quiet. Diana led her to a small two-room house with faded brown paint and a curtain for a front door. Inside, the space was small but clean. A folded mat rested in the corner. A low wooden table held a kerosene lamp. A kettle boiled gently on a kerosene stove in the corner. Diana smiled as she dropped her nylon bag. Welcome. Just sit down. My brother is inside. Just then, the door to the inner room opened, and Daniel stepped out. Sophie froze. Daniel blinked. You? Hi, Sophie said, suddenly shy. Diana looked between them. Wait, you two know each other? Daniel frowned. What are you doing here? I met Diana just now. She was in trouble. I helped her, and she brought me here. I didn't know this was your house. Daniel looked at his sister. She said she has nowhere to sleep, Diana explained. And she helped me when some boys took your change. Can she stay just for tonight? Daniel hesitated. Sophie stood straight. I can sleep on the floor. I won't cause any trouble. I just need one night. Daniel let out a quiet sigh. One night. That's all. Thank you, Sophie said quickly. I really appreciate it. He nodded, still cautious. Diana pointed. You can sleep on the couch. It's not very soft, but it's okay. The bathroom is outside. You'll need to carry water in a bucket. Sophie smiled. That's fine. The house was simple. No fridge, no fan. The bathroom outside was just a small shack with a blue curtain. But it was safe. It was warm. And for the first time that day, Sophie felt like she could finally rest. Later that night, lying on the couch with a wrapper Diana gave her, Sophie listened to the quiet hum of the neighborhood, the sound of water dripping from a tap outside, and the steady breathing of two siblings who had faced the world alone. She closed her eyes, grateful. She had lost everything that day, but somehow she had also found something. Or maybe someone. Daniel. And Diana. She whispered to herself before sleep took her. Just one day at a time. Sophie woke to the smell of kerosene and the soft clink of a kettle lid. Morning light slipped through the thin curtain. For a moment she didn't remember where she was. Then the couch, the small room, and the quiet street outside brought it back. Daniel stepped out from the doorway, tying his shoelace. He looked at her for a second, then nodded. Good morning. Good morning, she said, sitting up quickly. He glanced at the couch, then at the door. You don't have anywhere to go yet, do you? Sophie shook her head. You can stay here for a while, he said at last, as long as you don't cause trouble. Relief washed over her. Thank you, I promise. Diana will show you the bathroom outside, he added. Okay, she said, trying to sound confident. The days that followed were full of small lessons. The outdoor bathroom was cool in the early morning and hot in the afternoon. Sophie learned to fill a blue bucket from a shared tap and carry it without spilling too much. The first time she tried, water sloshed over her slippers, and Diana giggled softly, then helped her steady the load. Lunch often came as rice in a nylon bag from a street vendor. The first time Sophie saw it, she hesitated. Do we have plates? She asked carefully. Diana shook her head. Not enough. We eat it like this. Sophie's face gave away more than she meant. Oh, right. Sorry. Daniel glanced up. It's food, he said simply. I know, Sophie replied quickly. I'm grateful. She took a bite and forced herself to stop thinking about plates and cutlery. It tasted good, peppery, smoky, real. Still, when Diana mentioned meat, Daniel shook his head. Not today, he said. Meat is expensive. Sophie opened her mouth, then closed it. The words, we always had, almost slipped out. She swallowed them and said instead, maybe another time. But sometimes her old life pushed through without permission. Is there a laundromat I can send these to? she asked one afternoon, holding a small bundle of clothes. Daniel looked at her. We wash by hand. Right, she said, cheeks warm. Of course. Or when she stared at the kerosene stove and asked, Do you think we could buy a small electric cooker? It would be easier. Daniel's jaw tightened. We use what we can afford. Sophie felt the sting at once. I'm sorry, she said softly. I didn't mean to sound ungrateful. Diana touched her arm. It's fine. Diana was patient and kind. She showed Sophie how to sweep the tiny living room properly, how to fold the couch blanket into a neat square, how to rinse plates with just enough water to make it last. They laughed when a plate slipped and knocked a spoon to the floor. It became a small victory when they finished chores before the water in the kettle cooled. Most evenings, Sophie walked with Daniel to his small shoe shop by the roadside. The sign was old, but the workbench inside was clean. Rolls of leather sat in a crate. Shoe cream, brushes, and thread were lined up like soldiers. Customers came and went with worn shoes and hopeful faces. You're very good at this, Sophie said, watching his hands stitch a loose sole with quick, careful movements. Daniel shrugged. I had to learn. Did you always want to be a shoemaker? No, he said quietly. I studied law, finished well. But after our parents died, there was no one to introduce me to any firm. I sent many applications, went to offices, waited for hours. Nothing. People told me to check back later. Later never came. He looked at the shoe in his hand, then at her. We needed to eat. We needed to pay rent. So I learned this. First repairs, then making pairs from scratch. Now we survive. Sophie listened, the street noise fading around them. I'm sorry, she said. He didn't ask about her story, but she offered one anyway, the safe version she had prepared. I'm an orphan too, she said quietly. I've been moving from one place to another, trying to find work, trying to find where I belong. Daniel nodded slowly. That's not easy, although you don't talk or act like someone who had it rough. No, she said. It's not, and I know I may sound sophisticated at times, but that's just me. A few minutes later, she added too lightly. Back in my old area, people took their shoes to a designer boutique for repairs. Daniel's hands paused. He looked up just once. The words hung in the air, wrong-shaped. I'm sorry, she said quickly. I keep saying the wrong things. He returned to his stitching. You can learn to say the right ones, he said, not unkindly. That evening, as they closed the shop, Sophie stood straighter. Please let me work to repay the 10,000 you gave the driver, she said, and for letting me stay. I want to earn my keep. Daniel considered. All right. But you'll start with cleaning, no stitching, no glue. Just cleaning and polishing. I'll do it, she said. The next day, he set a stack of worn shoes on the bench and handed her a brush and polish. Dust first, he said. Then a little polish, small circles. Let it sit, then brush again. Sophie tried. The first pair came out. Strange. The toes were streaky, the heel was dull, and there was a dark patch where the polish clumped. Diana peeked in and covered her mouth, trying not to laugh. Okay, she said, stepping closer. Watch me. She took Sophie's hand and guided the brush in soft circles. Lightly. See? You don't need much. And keep the cloth tight around your fingers. Sophie tried again. This time the shoe began to shine in a gentle, even way. Oh, she said, surprised. It's working. Exactly, Diana grinned. Now do the other one. Sophie worked slowly, tongue between her teeth, careful and focused. When she finished, she held both shoes up, hopeful. One was slightly shinier than the other. Daniel looked at them, then at her. Not bad, he said, for a first day. Really? She asked. Really, Diana said. Tomorrow, we'll beat that shine. Sophie laughed, an honest, light sound that surprised even her. For the first time in a long time, she felt the soft warmth of progress, not a big award, not a headline. Just 2 clean shoes and the promise that she could learn more. That night, back on the couch, her arms ached in a good way. The house was still. Outside, a radio played somewhere far off. Sophie thought about the bucket bath, the nylon rice, the careful coins, and the shine she had made with her own hands. She whispered to the dark, "Thank you for today." In the doorway, Daniel paused, unseen, listening to the gratitude in her voice. He switched off the lamp. "Good night," he said. "Good night," she answered, smiling into the quiet. She shifted on the couch and stared at the dark ceiling. She thought about his careful hands, the quiet way he explained things, and the small smiles he gave when work turned out well. She remembered the first day she left the mansion, the fear, the noise, and the kindness that found her. She did not have soft sheets or a large room anymore. She did not have servants or silver spoons, but she was learning, working, and laughing. In that small house, her heart felt light. She was truly happy. Days passed. The bucket bath no longer felt strange. She carried water without spilling. She swept the room each morning with Diana. She ate rice from nylon and smiled at the taste. In the evenings, she helped at the shop and watched shoes return to life in Daniel's hands. The little routine wrapped around her like a warm shawl. One night after washing plates, Sophie stepped outside to make a call. "Daddy?" "Amelia." Mr. James's voice softened at once. "How are you?" "I'm fine," she said, meaning it. "I'm safe. I'm working a bit and learning a lot. Please tell Mom not to worry." He exhaled. "Your mother worries because she loves you. I do too. Eat well, keep your head down. If you need anything." "I know," she said gently. "I'll be careful, I promise." When she cut the call, she dialed the second number. "Mom?" "Amelia," Sarah whispered, as if her voice could hug. "Are you sleeping well? Are you warm? Are you safe?" "Yes, Mom, I'm okay. Don't worry, please." "Come home if anything feels wrong," Sarah said. "Anytime, no questions." "I will," Sophie said. "I love you." "I love you too." The line clicked off. Sophie looked up at the thin scatter of stars and smiled. One quiet afternoon at the shop, Daniel rested his elbow on the workbench and stared at a page of numbers. Diana was outside, sweeping the front. "What is it?" Sophie asked. Daniel tapped the paper. "There's a short course at a better school nearby. It will prepare Diana for her entrance exams and help her get ready for university later. I want her to take it." Sophie leaned closer. "That sounds good." He nodded. "The fee is $150,000. They gave us 2 weeks to pay." Sophie went still. She knew what $150,000 meant in this house: rent, food, repairs, saving in tiny pieces. "Will you be able to raise it?" Daniel folded the paper carefully. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I will try. She deserves more than what life gave us." Sophie studied his face, the steady eyes, the quiet strength. "You're a good brother," she said. He shook his head. "I'm just doing what I can." Sophie felt a warm ache in her chest. She admired that kind of love, the kind that worked with its hands and made a way where there was none. 2 days later, a man in a plain shirt walked into the shop carrying a small folder. "Good afternoon," he said. "Are you Mr. Daniel Cole?" Daniel looked up. "Yes." "I'm from the local business office," the man said, showing an ID card. "We are listing small shops for a 200,000 micro grant. It is for tools, small upgrades, and training. You were recommended by the community list." Daniel wiped his hands. "A grant?" "Yes, it's not a loan. You must fill a form, show what you will use the money for, and keep simple records." Sophie glanced at Daniel. His face was calm, but she could feel his heart racing. The man placed the form on the bench. "Think about it," he said. "I will pass by tomorrow. If you want to apply, have this filled." When he left, Daniel stared at paper like it was a door he wasn't sure he should open. "This could help," Sophie said softly. "New tools, better leather, a small signboard, maybe even a small fan for the shop." Daniel rubbed his thumb along the wood grain. "Grants don't always reach people like us." "Then let's try anyway," Sophie said. "If it is real, we won't miss it. If it isn't, we lose nothing but time." He hesitated. "Forms," he said lightly, almost smiling. I used to read long documents in law school. This one still scares me. Then let me help, Sophie said. We'll do it together. They sat side by side at the bench. Sophie read each question out loud, and Daniel answered. Business name? Sophie wrote carefully, neat and clear. She helped shape the sentences, but every answer came from Daniel's mind and heart. When they reached the section about impact, she paused. What will this money change? Daniel looked toward the open door where Diana was chatting with a neighbor. It will help me work faster, he said, so I can serve more customers. It will help me earn more so I can pay for Diana's course and save for our future. Sophie's throat tightened. She wrote his words exactly. When they finished, Daniel signed at the bottom. His hand shook a little. Sophie placed the pen down and smiled. Done. He nodded, almost shy. Thank you, he said. For what? For believing with me. The next morning, the official returned. He checked the form, asked 2 quick questions, and took it away with a small nod. We'll get back to you, he said. After he left, the shop felt brighter, as if the sun had found a new angle through the doorway. Diana danced past the bench, humming a song. Sophie laughed. Daniel shook his head, but the smile reached his eyes this time. New hope had walked into their small life and pulled up a chair. That evening, Sophie wiped the last pair of shoes and placed them in a neat row. She looked around at the simple shop, the scuffed floor, the careful tools, the hard-earned shine, and felt it again, that quiet, steady happiness that did not need gold to glow. Tomorrow, she whispered to herself, we keep going. The next week the officer returned with a smile and a stamped paper. Approved, he said. 200,000, use it well. Daniel stood very still, then breathed out, Thank you. Sophie clapped softly. Diana jumped and hugged her brother. Hope did not just knock, it walked in and sat down. They moved fast. Daniel bought better leather new soles and glue repaired the stitching machine, painted the sign, and hung a small standing fan in the corner. Sophie helped clean and arrange every shelf. Diana wrote a neat price board and wiped the glass each morning until it shone. Orders grew. People told their friends. Shoes came in bags and left in bright paper wraps. Work filled the days. Money came, slowly at first, then more steadily. On the very last day before the deadline, Daniel walked to the school office and paid $150,000 for Diana's course. He returned home holding the receipt like a treasure. That night they ate rice and beans with a small piece of meat each. Sophie watched Daniel smile as he looked at his sister's form. He kept glancing at Sophie too, longer now, then looking away with a quiet smile. When she bent over the bench to polish a shoe, he caught himself smiling again. She was not just someone he was helping anymore. She was part of the room, part of the rhythm, part of his thoughts. Everything was falling into place. But the peace didn't last long. One warm afternoon, the shop bell jingled hard. A woman in a fitted dress and bright lipstick walked in, heels clicking. She smelled like strong perfume and impatience. Anita Johnson, Daniel's girlfriend. Daniel, she said, looking around like the shop was too small for her. It has been a while. Daniel wiped his hands. Anita, you have not come here in 2 months. You didn't return my calls. I have been busy, she said, checking her nails. She did not even apologize for ghosting him. Sophie came in from the back with a tray of brushes. Anita's eyes slid to her and narrowed. You now work with her? She helps, Daniel said simply. Anita let out a short laugh. You, she said to Sophie. Why are you here? A woman bending over shoes all day? Such low-class work. No ambition. Sophie steadied the tray. It is honest work, she said, calm but firm. Anita waved a hand. Save the speech. Daniel, I need rent money. Transfer something today. Daniel rubbed his forehead. I will send what I can later, he said. I just paid Diana's school. Things are tight. Anita rolled her eyes. Always some excuse. Just make sure you send it. She gave Sophie one last cold look and left, heels tapping the floor like a warning. The next day Anita came again, sharper than before. She dropped into the chair and snapped, Where is that girl? The shoe polish girl. Sophie was sorting laces. Diana stood up at once. "Her name is Sophie," Diana said. "And she works hard." Anita turned. "Little girl, stay out of adult talk." Diana did not move. "Respect is not about age. Stop insulting her." Daniel's jaw tightened. "Anita, that's enough." Anita stood. "So this is it? You choose them over me?" "I am choosing respect," Daniel said. "If you can't speak with basic kindness, don't come here." Anita laughed without joy. "Send my money," she said, and walked out. Silence followed her out the door. Daniel rubbed his face and went back to work. Sophie quietly placed a glass of water on his bench. He whispered, "Thank you," and drank. Days passed. Business boomed. People loved the new sign and the careful work. One afternoon, a man came for his black formal shoes, urgent order for an evening event. Daniel searched the shelf, then his eyes widened. He had forgotten to finish them. His chest tightened. I need a few hours," he told the customer. "Please." The man frowned. "You promised today." Daniel apologized again, sweat gathering at his hairline. As he turned to his bench, Sophie had already laid the shoes down, opened the polish, and warmed a cloth between her hands. "Let me help," she said. "You stitch. I'll finish the upper and heel. We can make it." They worked side by side, quick and careful. Daniel corrected one stitch. Sophie matched the shine across both toes. She checked the welt, smoothed a tiny glue line, and buffed until the leather caught the light like a soft mirror. When the customer returned, the shoes were ready, clean, even, beautiful. He slipped one on and nodded, surprised. "Perfect," he said. He paid, added a small tip, and left with a grateful smile. Daniel stood still, the sound of the doorbell fading. He looked at Sophie, really looked. "Thank you," he said, voice low and full. "You saved me." Sophie smiled, a little breathless. "We saved the day." He reached into a drawer and took out a small leather key holder he had cut and stitched late one night. A simple loop with a tiny hand-stamped star. "It's not much," he said, a bit shy, "but it's for you." Sophie turned it in her fingers. The leather was smooth and warm. Her eyes softened. "It's perfect," she whispered. From the doorway, Diana watched them both and grinned to herself. It would be so nice if she was truly part of our family, she thought. As the sun dropped lower, Diana decided to take a short walk to the junction and back. Maybe she would pick up bread for tea. On the way, she spotted Anita across the road, standing under a small mango tree with her phone to her ear. Diana slowed. She did not plan to talk to Anita. But as she drew close, Anita's voice rose, bright and soft at the same time. "Yes, I miss you too," Anita said, smiling into the phone. "You know I love you. I'll see you tonight. Same place." Diana stopped. Her heart thumped once. Love who? She wondered. She stepped behind a parked car and listened, only a moment. "Don't worry," Anita said, laughing. "He'll send the money, he always does." Diana's stomach turned. She walked away quickly, bread forgotten, and headed straight home. That evening, when the shop closed and the street grew quiet, Diana told Daniel everything. She did not add any spice. She just repeated the words she heard. Daniel stood very still. He looked at the floor for a long time, then took his keys. "I need to see her," he said. "I'll come with you," Diana said. "No," he replied gently. "Stay with Sophie. I'll be back." Daniel arrived at the address he knew too well. The building had a dim corridor and a sharp smell of perfume. Through the half-open door of Anita's flat, he heard a man's laugh. He pushed the door wider. Anita and a man were on the sofa. They were kissing. The man jumped up. Anita's mouth fell open. "Daniel, wait!" Daniel did not shout. He did not make a scene. His voice was calm, and that calm was harder than anger. "It's over," he said. "Please," Anita reached for him. "It's not what you think." Daniel shook his head once. "It is exactly what I think." He turned and walked out, down the corridor, into the night air. He felt the pain, sharp, then dull. He also felt something else. Freedom. A weight he had carried for too long slipped off his shoulders. He went home, unlocked the door, and found Diana and Sophie waiting. He sat down, breathed out, and managed a small smile. "I'm okay," he said. Diana hugged him tight. Sophie set a cup of warm tea on the table and said nothing. She only sat close, hands wrapped around her own cup, eyes full of quiet care. Weeks passed. The house felt different, lighter. Peace came back like a soft breeze through the curtain. Sophie helped at the shop each morning. She set tools in a straight line, matched laces by color and length, and kept the glass clean. Customers noticed the new order. They also noticed the calm way Daniel worked, and the way the girl beside him moved with patience and respect. Laughter returned to the small home. In the evenings, Diana told stories about school and teased her brother and Sophie without mercy. "Brother," she would say, eyes wide with fake innocence, "do you know Sophie's polish shines more when you are watching?" Sophie would cover her face with a cloth. "Diana." Daniel would try not to smile, and fail. Sometimes, while closing the shop, Daniel would find himself looking at Sophie for a second longer than he meant to. He liked the way she bit her lip when she focused. He liked the soft she made when she solved a small problem. He liked that the room felt full when she entered, even if she said nothing at all. And Sophie? She was different too. She hummed small songs while she worked. She laughed more easily. When Daniel reached past her to take a brush, their hands would touch by mistake and both would pause, just a heartbeat, before moving on. Nothing big was said, nothing big was done, but something gentle was growing, steady as a new stitch, bright as a fresh shine. At night, after Diana slept, Sophie sat on the couch and looked at the little leather key holder by the lamp. She whispered, "Thank you," to the quiet room, for the work, for the peace, for the three of them under one small roof. Outside, the lane rested. Inside, the future waited, close, simple, and full. Morning light slipped through the thin curtain. Sophie pressed the button on her small torchlight phone. It blinked, then went dark. "It's not coming on," she sighed. "Take it to Musa to fix," Daniel said, lacing his shoes. Sophie shook her head. "No need for now. We have more important things to spend money on. I can borrow a phone if I need to call." Daniel paused, then nodded slowly. He knew she was right. Diana watched them, a soft ache in her chest at how easily Sophie chose sacrifice. The day moved gently. Customers came and went. Sophie cleaned, sorted laces, and wrote names in the little record book. Near closing time, Daniel set down his brush and looked at Sophie. He had been holding it in for days, maybe weeks. He wiped his hands on a cloth and stepped closer. "Sophie," he said, voice low, "I need to tell you something." She turned, heart already racing. "Okay. I think about you when you're not here," he said simply. "When you are here, the room feels full. When you smile, my day changes." He took a breath. I care about you. More than I planned to. More than I should." Sophie's eyes filled. She tried to speak, but her throat was tight. Finally, she nodded. "I feel the same," she whispered. "I didn't expect it, but I do." Daniel's shoulders loosened with relief. He reached up, gently cupped her face, and they both leaned in, about to kiss. Then the street outside roared. 2 black SUVs stopped hard by the shop. Doors flew open. Men in dark suits stepped out and swept their eyes across the road. The bell over the shop door rattled as they pushed in. "Amelia!" a firm voice called. Sophie froze. Daniel's hands fell to his sides. Diana rushed in so quickly her sandals scraped the floor. A tall man in a tailored suit stepped inside. His face was tired, worried, and very familiar from news photos Sophie avoided. Mr. James Benson. He looked straight at her. "Amelia, my dear, we've been trying to reach you. Your number hasn't gone through since yesterday," he said, the control in his voice barely holding. "Your mother is unwell. We need to go. Now." Silence filled the tiny room. Diana glanced from Sophie to Daniel, confused. "Amelia?" she repeated, like the word belonged to another story. Sophie's lips parted. She tried to form words. Nothing came. One of the security men stepped forward and said softly, Miss Amelia Benson, please. Daniel blinked. Once, twice. Amelia Benson, he said, each syllable heavy. Sophie turned to him, eyes pleading. Daniel, is that your name? He asked, voice suddenly far away. She nodded, small, broken. Yes. Diana's mouth fell open. The room tilted. The simple sign, the neat tools, the little fan, all of it felt like a stage that had been pulled apart in a single tug. Mr. James stepped closer, gentler now. We will explain later, he said. Your mother needs you. Sophie looked at Daniel. Everything she wanted to say crowded her chest at once. The truth, the fear, the promise that her feelings were real. All she managed was, I'm sorry. Daniel stood very still. His face was calm, but his eyes were hurt and stormy. Go, he said quietly. Your mother. Sophie nodded, tears burning hot. She picked up her small bag, the same one she had carried out of her mansion, and let the security lead her to the door. At the threshold, she turned back. Diana, she said, voice shaking. I'm sorry. Diana swallowed hard. She gave a tiny nod, eyes bright. Okay. The SUVs swallowed Sophie. Engines hummed. In a breath, they were gone. The shop felt suddenly too big and too empty. The air held the echo of what almost happened. The almost kiss, the almost answer, the almost life. Daniel stared at the door for a long time. His hands were open, empty. He had held honesty like a craft, like leather he could shape with patience. But this was a truth he did not see coming. Diana moved to his side and touched his arm. Brother? He blinked and found his voice. I'm here, he said. He looked at the bench, at the shoes waiting for tomorrow, at the key holder Sophie kept by the lamp. Let's close the shop and go home, he said softly. They turned off the fan. They stacked the brushes. They locked the door. On the quiet walk home, the road seemed longer. That night, the little house was quiet but heavy. Daniel and Diana sat with the lights off, each lost in thought. The word Amelia kept echoing between them. Far across town, inside the Benson mansion, Amelia sat on the edge of her bed, angry and tired. Her phone, finally charged and working, lay untouched. She had been told her mother was ill. It was a lie. She faced her parents in the grand sitting room. You promised to let me go and find myself, she said, voice shaking. You both agreed. Mr. James Benson kept his tone even. Amelia calmed down and listened to reason. Mrs. Sarah Benson reached for her hand. We were scared. We thought you wouldn't come back if we told you the truth. Amelia pulled back gently. You didn't trust me. Days passed inside the big house. Staff moved on quiet feet. Doors opened and closed. But Amelia's heart stayed far away, in a small shop with a wooden bench and a warm smile. I have to explain everything to him, she thought again and again. He deserves the truth from me, not from a stranger in a suit. One afternoon, Grace, a young maid who had always been kind to her, brought lunch. Amelia looked up. An idea lit in her eyes. Grace, will you help me? Grace blinked. What do you need, ma'am? I need you to go to someone, Amelia said softly. Tell him why I left. Tell him what is happening, please. Grace nodded at once. I will. The next morning, the bell above Daniel's shop door rang. Grace stepped in, clutching her small bag. She looked out of place among the polished tins and leather rolls. Are you Mr. Daniel Cole? She asked. Daniel stood. Yes. She lowered her voice. I came from Miss Amelia. She glanced at Diana, then back. Please, may I speak? Daniel nodded. Grace told them everything. How Amelia had left the house to find real love. But recently Mr. James had frozen her accounts. They had given their permission initially, but a failed business acquisition had pushed the family to seek a merger, and now they wanted her to marry Chief Leonard Okoro's son to seal it. The wedding, Grace said, was in 2 days. She doesn't want this, Grace said, eyes wet. They didn't plan to stop her at first, but the company is under pressure. Please help. Diana pressed a hand to her mouth. Daniel's jaw clenched, then set with quiet resolve. Where is she? He asked. At home, They are watching her closely. Daniel took a breath, grabbed his keys, and looked at Diana. I'll be back. Diana nodded, trusting him. The Benson estate gates were tall and guarded, but Daniel walked straight to the intercom and gave his name. Security met him at the door, unsure, suspicious. I need to speak to Mr. Benson, Daniel said, calm but firm. Please tell him it's about Amelia. They let him in. The marble floor felt colder than he expected. Mr. James Benson came down the steps, eyes sharp. Young man, what are you doing in my house? He asked. I believe you now know you and my daughter have no future. She's far above your class. Leave. I came to reason with you, Daniel replied. Please listen. She is unhappy. She should not be forced into a marriage for a deal. Who are you to lecture me about my own daughter? Get him out, Mr. James told security, anger rising. At that moment, Amelia, who had heard voices from the corridor, rushed toward them. Daniel, she called, breathless, hope breaking across her face. She took 2 steps, and the room tilted. The days of stress, the fear, the pressure, everything hit her at once. Her eyes fluttered. She fainted. Amelia! Mrs. Mary cried, running to her side. Daniel moved fast, catching Amelia before she hit the floor. He held her carefully, fear written plain on his face. Mr. James froze. The scene cut through pride and plans like a knife. He saw the panic in Daniel's eyes, the way he whispered her name, the way his hands shook. He saw his daughter's pale face, and in that moment, all the spreadsheets and meetings in the world felt small. Call the doctor, he said. His voice had changed. They carried Amelia to a room. After some minutes and a splash of water, her eyes opened. She looked at her father, then her mother, then Daniel. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Daddy, she whispered. I have to say this now. Mr. James nodded, suddenly quiet. Amelia took a slow breath. I left because I wanted real love. I went to find it, and I found it. She looked at Daniel, voice steady. I found the person I told you I was hoping to meet. Mrs. Sarah took her hand, fingers trembling. You are our only child, she said softly, turning to her husband. Her happiness must come before any merger. Mr. James looked at his wife, then at his daughter, rising, falling with each breath. He closed his eyes for a second, then opened them with a decision. The marriage is off, he said. I will call Chief Okoro and cancel it. I'm sorry, Amelia. I was wrong. He turned to Daniel. And I owe you an apology too. I judged you before I knew you. Daniel stood still, stunned. Sir, not now, Mr. James said, gentler. Later, we talk properly. He looked at Amelia. We will respect your choices. He faced Daniel again. Please come tonight, as a guest. We will have a real conversation. Daniel nodded, still shaken. Thank you, sir. Hours later, back at the shop, Daniel could not sit still. He kept wiping the same cloth over the same spot on the bench. The picture of Amelia falling had not left his mind. He had never prayed so hard without words. When the call finally came, from Mr. James's personal line, Daniel answered at once. She is resting, Mr. James said, and she asked to see you. Come, please. Daniel grabbed his keys. I'm on my way. He paused at the door. Diana stood there, eyes bright with hope. Go, she smiled. Just be yourself. Daniel nodded and stepped into the evening, heart pounding. He did not know how the night would end. He did not know what the future would hold. But as he hurried toward the mansion, one prayer filled his chest. Let her be well, even if life takes us different ways. Please, let her be well. That evening, Daniel entered the Benson mansion with a careful heart. The conversation that followed was long and honest. Mr. James asked about Daniel's life, his work, and his hopes. Daniel spoke simply, about Diana, about the shop, about learning to make something good with his hands. Amelia listened with shining eyes, adding little truths he would never have said about himself. When Daniel stood to leave, Mr. James shook his hand. I am sorry for being so rude earlier, and thank you for loving my daughter with dignity, he said. A few days later, a black sedan pulled up outside Daniel's small house. The door opened, and Mr. James himself stepped out with a gentle smile. He walked around, opened the other door, and Amelia stepped onto the dusty lane in a simple dress and flats. "I'll pick you any time you call," Mr. James told her softly. Then to Daniel, "Take care of each other." He returned to the car and drove off, quiet, deliberate trust. Amelia turned to Daniel. He didn't speak. He simply pulled her into a grateful hug. Diana burst out of the doorway, laughing and clapping. "Finally!" she cried, jumping in circles. The three of them stood in the doorway, smiling through happy tears. The little house felt complete. That evening they made jollof on the kerosene stove and ate with the fan humming. No secrets, no pretending. Just the three of them at one table, on one small rug, with one big piece. As days settled into their new rhythm, Amelia stopped hiding her name, but kept her simple ways. She swept, carried water, and worked at the bench. One afternoon she looked over Daniel's shoulder at a half-made pear. "You have a gift," she said. "Let me invest a little. New machines, better leather, a proper fitting corner." Daniel shook his head. "I don't want your money to change things between us." "It won't," she said gently. "It will only multiply your talent and help more people. Please let me help." He hesitated, then nodded once. "Okay, but we do it the right way. We plan it together." They drew up a small plan, a stitching machine upgrade, premium leather, proper lasts in full sizes, better lighting, and a hand-painted new sign. Amelia also sketched sleek, modern designs, clean lines, soft edges, a quiet elegance that still felt every day. Orders grew again, this time faster. People asked for Daniel X Amelia, Amida Designs pairs by name. In 3 months, they signed a lease for a bright corner space in an upscale part of town. The new shop had glass walls, warm wood, soft chairs, and a measuring mirror that made customers smile at their own feet. Word spread. Corporate women ordered low heels that felt like sneakers. Grooms booked matching sets for their weddings. A musician posted a photo of hand-stitched boots. Feels like a hug. In no time, Daniel's shoes were highly sought after and not flashy, just beautiful and kind. At home, joy deepened. Diana opened an email one morning and screamed. She'd been admitted to study computer science at a respected university. She danced in the living room. Amelia spun her around. Daniel tried to look calm and failed completely. That night they ate grilled fish to celebrate, and Diana, teary and proud, said, "Thank you for believing I could be more." "You already are," Daniel said. On a quiet Thursday, they watched Sarah Benson, Amelia's mom, on her afternoon TV talk show. She spoke with a softer tone than before. "Sometimes," Sarah said to her viewers, "love asks us to stand with our people, not in front of them. Sometimes it asks us to trade fear for faith." She didn't mention names. She didn't have to. She smiled the way only a mother who let go and received back more could smile. In the shop that day, Amelia met Daniel's eyes, cheeks warm. He reached for her hand under the counter just for a second. Diana, arranging laces, caught them and grinned. "Please, lovebirds. Focus on customers," she teased, and they all laughed. Evenings stayed simple. A small home-cooked meal, a slow walk, shared plans scribbled in a notebook. They talked about a scholarship fund for apprentices, a weekend class where Daniel would teach boys and girls how to make and mend, and a tiny line of school shoes named Diana that would be sturdy, affordable, and kind to the feet that carried big dreams. One stitch at a time, one honest sale at a time, they built something that felt like a promise. Love that works, love that makes, love that stays. A week later, Mr. James and Mrs. Sarah invited Daniel to dinner. No speeches, no tests, no class lines, just family. Daniel arrived in a clean shirt, hands a little nervous, and set 2 small boxes on the table. "For you, sir," he said, opening the first, a hand-stitched leather valet tray stamped JB warm brown with neat edges. "For your keys and watch." "For you, ma'am," he said, opening the second, a slim leather bookmark with a tiny gold leaf pressed at the tip and SB embossed softly. "So your page always waits for you." Sarah smiled, touched in a place words rarely reached. James turned the tray in his palm and nodded once, deeply. "Thank you," he said. "This is craft and heart." Dinner was simple: pepper soup, jollof, grilled fish, and full of easy talk. No one mentioned mergers or titles. They spoke about Diana's admission, the shop's new apprentices, and how Amelia's shoe sketches kept selling out. Business kept growing. Customers booked fittings weeks ahead. With Diana's sharp mind and cheerful hustle, the shop ran like a gentle machine. One evening, Daniel pulled Diana aside. "I need your help." Diana's eyes lit up. Finally. They planned in whispers between customers and stitched it together after closing. A tiny ring box that Daniel cut and covered in soft leather. A small note Amelia once wrote, "Love is work and warmth," printed inside the lid in a quiet rooftop where the city lights felt close. On a cool Saturday, Daniel took Amelia to that rooftop. A single lantern glowed. The leather ring box sat on the ledge, small and perfect. Daniel held her hands. "You walked into my life with a small bag and a brave heart," he said. "You taught me that love can be simple and still be rich. Will you marry me?" Tears filled her eyes. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, laughing. "Yes." Somewhere below, Diana shouted, "She said yes," and ran up the stairs to hug them both, almost knocking the lantern over. Their wedding was exactly who they were, simple and classy. A small garden, soft music, fresh flowers. Daniel in a clean suit and handmade shoes. Amelia in an elegant dress with quiet lines. James walked her down the aisle with calm pride. Sarah dabbed her eyes and smiled for real this time. They exchanged vows that sounded like work done well, faithful, steady, patient, kind. After a light meal and too many photos, friends left with favors. Tiny leather key holders stamped with a star. People said it felt less like an event and more like a home being built in the open air. Life folded back into rhythm, sweeter than before. Mornings smelled of leather and polish. Afternoons hummed with customers. Evenings were for slow walks and shared plans. One golden sunset. Amelia flipped the shop sign to closed while Daniel counted the last receipts. They checked the bench, covered the machine, and dimmed the lights. At the door, he locked up. She slipped her fingers into his. They stepped onto the quiet street. Husband and wife, shoemaker and designer, no titles needed. Behind them, their name on the glass caught the last light. Ahead of them, the road was ordinary and full of promise. They walked on, hand in hand, proving what they already knew. True love needs no crown, no noise, no grand stage, only sincerity and two people willing to build it, one honest day at a time.